How's it going? My name's Bradley with Allaqcess Sports, bringing you another episode of our sleepers, studs, and stacks. This is where we talk about guys that are under $5,500 that you can get into your lineup and expect big returns from. Those studs, the high-priced guys that are at the top of the list because you cannot afford to miss on your high-priced guys. And then your stack. So what quarterback, wide receiver combination can we put in and expect success from? If you're coming back from another video, I appreciate you swinging by. And we didn't really have the best week last week, so I'm looking for a big bounce back game from us. Again, you can't win them all, and sometimes you just don't even win at all. And that's a risk you're willing to take. So play responsibly, do your research, and good luck this weekend. Let's get into the picks. Now, we typically start with the quarterbacks that are under $5,500, and I don't know if there's a whole lot that I love. Andy Dalton playing from behind again. We didn't want him last week. I don't really want him again this week. So no thank you. Deshaun Watson, potentially, but he's been due for a couple letdowns. Drake May is going to get his first career start against the Patriots. That will be interesting. The only one that I have a real interest in is going to be this one in Will Levis. And again, it's not a real interest, but it's of real interest below 5,500, if that makes sense. Coming off a game where he had a shoulder injury, so he's had 14 days to rest up. He's been a participant in the practices this week, and now he's going to get a Indianapolis Colts defense that has not been very good this season. The Indianapolis Colts could be without a lot of their starters, looking like Josh Downs might miss time, Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor has been limited. So if that's the case, and this Tennessee Titans defense continues to be as good as they have been, that could be some short fields for Will Levis. And I think he could pay off. At $4,800, all we need is to get 15 points out of him, and we're getting 3 to 4 times our value. So what quarterbacks do we love? Well, Lamar Jackson at the top certainly checks a lot of boxes. Going up against the Washington Commanders, kind of surprising that they rank 21st in the league in rush yards allowed per game when they have two big bodies up the middle in Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne. I expect a lot of points to be scored in this one. I think Washington is certainly capable of scoring against this, 31st ranked defensive back situation for the Baltimore Ravens. I think points will be scored. So Lamar Jackson will have to continue to throw and utilize his legs to get it done. On the flip side, Jaden Daniels, I have just as much love for him, and you get to save $500. Again, it's a team that ranks 31st against the pass. And if they're applying pressure because of the run and getting in his face, Jaden Daniels is still a threat to use his legs. But the two guys that I love the most would be starting off with Jordan Love at $6,600. I love this price point for him going up against an Arizona Cardinals defense that's kind of middle of the pack. They're really struggling against the run game right now. They may be loading the box. Romeo Doubs looks good to go. He's served his suspension. He should be back for this team. I really like Jordan Love at this price point, $6,600 at home against Arizona. We know Arizona is capable of scoring points with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray at the helm. I think that means the Packers have to keep the gas pedal down in the passing game with Jordan Love. Secondly, coming off a 500-yard performance from Kirk Cousins, this is kind of a reverse homer game for you. As a Carolina Panthers fan, I know just how abysmal they are in the front seven. All 4 captains for this team not playing this year, and Bryce Young, Derek Brown, Shaq Thompson, and Sam Franklin. The Carolina Panthers are a team that ranked 26th in rushing yards allowed per game, near the bottom of the league in passes allowed to running backs, passes allowed to tight ends. Also, the passing yards allowed in general. If Darnell Moon is healthy, we'll get to him in a second as a stacking wide receiver in this game. I really like him lined up against Mac Jackson of the Carolina Panthers defense. I even like Kyle Pitts in this one. And I'm a Kyle Pitts hater. I think that project is long gone. He is priced up at $6,200. I certainly, like I said, do not expect another 500-yard performance, but getting 2 touchdowns out of him and 200 yards, I'll take my shot at an 18 to 24-point game. Running backs under $5,500. Normally, we have a really good time finding some of this talent that's down here, looking at the matchups, seeing who's going to be playing, diagnosing the injuries. I don't know if I love a whole bunch under $5,500 this year. I mean, this week, except for maybe at the top, Bucky Irving, if Rachaad White is going to miss time. Antonio Gibson, Ramondre Stevenson looks like he might be suiting up, might not be suiting up. Antonio Gibson, not going to be the starter, get 1 touch and then get pulled. Ramondre Stevenson actually dealing with an injury this week. Now they're going to get the Houston Texans defense that ranks middle of the pack in the run game. Again, the Patriots, no matter the score, aren't going to completely abandon the run game thanks to Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator there. And Antonio Gibson certainly has receiving upside. For a team that lacks weapons, if he's deemed the starter and Ramondre is out at $5,300, I like this play. And again, Bucky Irving, we just mentioned at $5,400. I like him if Rachaad White is out. But again, you're dealing with a Saints defense that currently ranks 8th in rush yards allowed per game. I do expect Tampa Bay to win this one. I know I'm picking Tampa Bay to win. And I think they get it done through the air with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans more so than the running game. After 2 strong games, I really want to pick Javonte Williams, but I feel like it's a trap game for me because when I pick a running back that's getting hot, he always falls flat on his face. Again, 10 points, 16 points. That's 3 times his value in those past 2 games, or at least 2 times his value in that 10-point game. But again, you get a matchup against an LA Chargers team that is pretty darn good. Again, last week they put up 34 points and he still only touched the ball 13 times. And I'm going to cheat a little at 5,600. That's close enough. Austin Eckler, no Brian Robinson Jr. this weekend likely. Baltimore Ravens, number 1 against the run though. So keep an eye on that. I know a lot of people are probably going to want to go Austin Eckler because the Washington Commanders have been playing really good complementary football, running the ball extremely well. That's how that offense has been getting started over the past few games. But that is a really, really good Baltimore Ravens rush defense. The good news is he gets a couple of targets a game out of the backfield, not even as the primary starter, but used in those passing down situations. So Austin Eckler at 5,600, I think is another valuable play for you. And it's easy to love the guys at the top. Saquon Barkley going up against Cleveland. Philadelphia now healthy with A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. I think they're able to spread this Cleveland Browns offense. Saquon Barkley is certainly in for a good game, but $8,200 is a light to bite. Again, Derrick Henry going up against this Washington Commanders team. 2 big bodies up the front. They might slow him down in the beginning. Derrick Henry's going to run over whoever is in his way, so I do like that play as well. Alvin Kamara did practice in a limited capacity, so I'm not really worried about this questionable tag. I think he's going to be good to go. Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of interesting to me at 7,000. I like him, don't love him. We know Dallas can score, so we know that the Detroit Lions are going to have to continue to pass the ball. Typically, outside of the last 2 weeks, Jahmyr Gibbs is that receiving threat out of the backfield. Hasn't gotten a reception in the past 2 games, but with the Cowboys deploying CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson, they're going to be scoring a decent amount of points, in my opinion, especially against this Detroit Lions defense. I think Jahmyr Gibbs gets back on the right track and is going to get some targets out of the backfield. I like him, but $7,000 is a lot to bite off. I would rather save $500 and get David Montgomery, just a guy that's going to absolutely run through this Cowboys defense. Again, 23rd in the league against the run. Detroit should have some success through the air with Jameson Williams and maybe Amon-Ra. Deron Bland is not there, but I really expect the focus to be handing the ball off on Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Look at Chuba Hubbard getting some love at 6,300. Respect America. Respect the Panthers. Do I get sucked back into the Najee Harris $5,800 price tag? No Jalen Warren still. No Cordero Patterson still. It's a Las Vegas Raiders team that ranks 22nd in rushing yards allowed per game, and there's no Christian Wilkins. Yeah, you better believe Najee Harris is on my radar. Overall, the guys at the top are my favorites, along with Bijan Robinson going up against my Carolina Panthers. Again, they rank 26th in terms of rushing yards allowed per game. I know I talked about being excited about Kirk Cousins and Darnell Mooney and pairing them together. I think Bijan Robinson probably has his premier game of the season in this one. You might be concerned about some of the lack of touches, but I think you get ahead early and you just kind of run the clock out. The front 7 for the Carolina Panthers is abysmal and dealing with a ton of injuries right now. Don't overdo it, Falcons. Just run the ball and run the clock out. All right, so although we don't have a lot of running backs under $5,500, we do have a lot of wide receivers under $5,500. First one we have to start with, we're cheating a little bit at 5,600. Rashid Shaheed, will he take a hit with Spencer Rattler in there? Yeah, probably. But the Tampa Bay defense still gives up a ton of yards through the air and on the outside. Rashid Shaheed is that big play threat. I think Spencer Rattler can still spin it down the field. There's a lot of people that are going to be talking about Josh Down, Alec Pierce, AD, Adonai Mitchell. This week going up against Tennessee Titans, they're lacking weapons, right? Maybe no Jonathan Taylor, no Michael Pittman, no Josh Downs. You can take them if you want. I have a major concern that the Tennessee Titans have not allowed a single touchdown to a wide receiver this season. Again, would I have some interest in them at some severe price points? Yeah. Alec Pierce at 5,400 and AD Mitchell at like 3,900? Yeah, I have some interest, but know that their ceiling is limited because I don't really love these weapons. And I think the Tennessee Titans defensive back situation is pretty darn good. L'Jarius Sneed makes a lot of people look silly. Darnell Mooney, we've been talking about it all year, how much Kirk Cousins loves his wide receiver too. I think it kind of has been showing over the past few games. 7 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets, 16 targets. I don't necessarily think we're going to get that 500-yard game where he's going to get 2 touchdowns, but a realistic stat line, 3 catches for 88, 41 being the long and a touchdown. We saw Jamar Chase do a big run against this Carolina Panthers team. We saw Trey Tucker get a deep one. Rashid Shaheed at the beginning of the season had a deep one. They've been beat multiple times on the deep ball. Darnell Mooney over the middle of the field, I feel like is a matchup nightmare. He's going to get Mike Jackson or one of these really weak rookie linebackers or an old and slow Jose Jewell. He's finally getting the priced up respect that he deserves in Jalen Tolbert. I know I've talked about him on here multiple times. If you follow me on TikTok and you hop in the TikTok lives, I loved Jalen Tolbert this season. Fortunately for us, and unfortunately for the Cowboys, Brandon Cooks goes down with an injury, which elevates Jalen Tolbert's status. That has helped him immensely getting involved in this offense. And again, 10 targets last week against a pretty good Pittsburgh Steelers defense. The Cowboys, again, now getting a Detroit Lions defense that ranks 27th in the league in passing yards allowed. We know Detroit can score. The Cowboys will not be able to just abandon the run if they were ahead in the game 24-7. They're going to have to throw the ball to keep up. And lastly, you have to go way down to find this one in Xavier Hutchinson. He's certainly going to be the number 3 guy, not Tank Dell numbers, not Stephon Diggs numbers, but at $3,300, he's a guy who came in this past Sunday and played 48 snaps after the absence of Nico Collins. He only got 3 targets in there, so again, we're not expecting him to have a 10-target game. But if we can get 4 or 5 targets to Xavier Hutchinson, he'll kind of be the forgotten-about guy on the outside of this offense. With all of the attention on Diggs and Dell, Xavier Hutchinson might have some room to kind of run around, and C.J. Stroud is excellent at finding the guy that's just open and running around. Now at the top, because we saved so much money with some of these other guys at the wide receiver and running back position, CeeDee Lamb is certainly on the table for us. Again, going up against a really bad Detroit Lions defense, or at least one that's good against stopping the run and is allowing a lot of passing yards. 9 targets, 8 targets, 7 targets. We haven't seen the volume that we were getting out of him last year, but we are still seeing some touchdowns. No touchdown, touchdown, no touchdown, touchdown, no touchdown. That means this is a touchdown week. There's a trend that says it on my screen, so it must be true. Never doubt trends that are 100% true. Marvin Harrison Jr. is in a good spot in this one. It's kind of a run back from that Jordan Love talk that I had earlier in this one. If there is no Jair Alexander, who's missed the past 2 games with a groin injury, he has been practicing, so keep an eye on it. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. could be in for another one of these explosive weeks. The Packers rank 23rd against the pass, and you have to honor the running game by the Cardinals because they do like to keep it even and play very complimentary football, with James Conner still getting a heavy dose. Kyler Murray's a threat with his legs. The stars are kind of aligning if there's no Alexander for Marvin Harrison Jr. At $7,200, he's priced back to where he was at the beginning of the season, and I like this spot for him. A.J. Brown going up against the Cleveland Browns, and then the same name, same game kind of thing. A.J. Brown, but it is interesting. The Browns rank 7th in the league in passing. But they've been behind so much, the teams have just kind of run out the clock in the 4th quarter. They haven't had to throw the ball a whole bunch to beat them. Browns just aren't really a good team. Me and the Buccaneers wide receivers have a long-standing debate where they know that if I pick one receiver, they will not perform, and the other one is going to step up. The 2 weeks that we picked Chris Godwin over the last 2 weeks, Mike Evans has said, you know what, I'll carry the load in 23-24. In week 2, we said Mike Evans was in a really good spot against the Detroit Lions, and they held him to 7 points, and in that one, Chris Godwin decided, you know what, let's explode for 27 points. So I'm letting you know right now, I think Spencer Rattler has some turnovers. The Buccaneers have a short field, which means a lot of red zone targets for Mike Evans. I'm playing Mike Evans. So you should be playing Chris Godwin. And then you have this cluster of wide receivers that I do like. Drake London's probably going to get J.C. Horn, so I slightly reserve my play on him, but J.C. Horn is not a complete shadow, so Drake London is still going to get some targets. Chris Olave in that Tampa Bay game, yes, but it is Spencer Rattler that's going to be spinning the ball. Zay Flowers against a weak Washington pass defense, and then Terry McLaurin on the flip side against a weak pass defense in Baltimore. For all the baddies and the daddies, the guys and the girls that our team never pay up for a tight end, how you doing? Because we got one this week. Again, I never like paying up for a tight end because I feel like you can always find value. When you're trying to 3 or 4x your value, and getting a tight end this year to get 18 points is pretty darn difficult. Getting a tight end to get 10 points has been pretty darn difficult, as we only have 5-6 guys on the slate who average that this season. So while you can like McBride in a good matchup, Sam Laporta doesn't get Deron Bland if he's healthy. I think he's in a good spot. I'm still not willing to pay $5,500. I'd rather pay $4,400 for Kyle Pitts going up against my Carolina Panthers, who are atrocious over the middle. There is no need to have your tight end to help blocking because the Panthers can't generate any pressure, meaning more routes for Kyle Pitts. Plus, these linebackers just can't cover. So even though I stand right here, right hand on the Bible, as a man before God, as a Kyle Pitts never player, I'm considering Kyle Pitts this week. And if you want to save a little bit more money, Zach Ertz playing against that Baltimore Ravens defense. Again, it's a Ravens defense that's giving up a ton of passing yards. Zach Ertz getting good volume, 8 targets last week, only converting on 2 of those catches. I expect a little bit more efficiency, maybe not 8 targets, but somewhere in the realm of 5 targets, and this one is doable. Again, we know the Ravens can score against a bad Washington defense. Washington will have to throw the ball. No Brian Robinson. We're going to depend on the passing game in this one. And since I called out Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, this is probably a Cade Otton weekend. If you don't trust me and you want to trust some other experts that are out there, Rotowire is the tool for you. It's down in the description below for a free trial. No credit card, no payment required. It's just a fantastic site that gives you all of the tools that you need. We have injury reports, weather news for you, stats, defenses versus specific positions if you want to get really into the nitty-gritty of things and find your favorite players for the week, or maybe you find, hey, let me talk myself out of this. Or the Chargers aren't going to throw the ball very much, so Patrick Surtain gets pulled out of it. I don't like the Broncos defense as much. It really is an incredible tool, making the lineup with some of the names that we reserved: David Montgomery, Mike Evans, Kyle Pitts. I told you I really like these guys. Here's the lineups that it spit out for me. I don't necessarily love them because we have a couple of questionable tags. I don't like this Tennessee matchup, but I do kind of like Javonte. I do like Lamar. I do like Jake Ferguson. And I kind of forgot about Justin Fields against Las Vegas. So how do we build a lineup based on the guys that we talked about, where Jordan Love is in there, but I don't have a wide receiver to pair him with? That kind of disappoints me, so I'll have to move some things around. David Montgomery I like against the Cowboys. Derrick Henry running against Washington I do like. I would like to get a Washington wide receiver in here. Xavier Hutchinson kind of as my cheap wide receiver again. Don't necessarily expect a 24-point game out of him, but I'd be happy with 10 to 12. Getting more guys in from this Detroit-Dallas game. Jalen Tolbert in there for me. Zach Ertz, Washington needing to throw the ball against Baltimore. And then that leaves me with this little area of players where we can get some real talent in James Conner going up against Green Bay, Devonta Smith against Cleveland, Josh Jacobs continuing to run it with Jordan Love, Drake London against my Carolina Panthers, a terrible pass defense, Bijan Robinson against the Carolina Panthers, a terrible run defense, Zay Flowers. You get where I'm going with this. There's a lot of weapons, including Terry McLaurin, if you want to get more love in that Washington-Baltimore game. What if we run it with Justin Fields instead of Najee Harris and get Josh Jacobs in there, and then we can go get Amon-Ra St. Brown, who hopefully will not be facing Deron Bland. I like this. I like this a lot. If you want to see my final lineup and the player pool that I come up with, you can log on to our Patreon. That's down in the description below. We give you our player rankings, our player pool. We give you a little bit of insights on injury news on a Sunday morning email that pops right into your inbox. But that's only if you want to go above and beyond in support of the channel, and I cannot thank those of you enough that are already doing so. I appreciate those of you that have reached out and asking how. Best of luck this weekend. Hopefully the next time that I see you is down in the comments telling me your lock of the week and in the green. Good luck.